Good morning to one and all. I am Meenakshi. On behalf of the AYUDH team, extend a very warm welcome to all of you to today's online session, which was our eighth session in the series of 9 talks on the divinity of motherhood and women empowerment. AYUDH is the youth wing of Mata Amrita Mutt, aiming to use the powerful forces of young people to perpetuate natural harmony, social justice, and personal empowerment. Our vision and mission is inspired by the humanitarian leader, Sri Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, lovingly known as Amma. And on this note, I would request Brahmachari Mokshamrita Chaitanya ji, who is Amma's disciple and also an AYUDH coordinator, to start today's session on an auspicious note and share some words of his wisdom.
Namaskar. Thank you so much, Meenakshi. Dhyayamo dhavalavagunthanavati tejomai naishtiki snigdha pangavilokini bhagavati mandasmita shrimukhi vatsalyamritavarshini sumadharam sankirtana lapini shyamangi madhusikta sutin Amritanandatmikam Ishwari Om Amriteshwari Namah. Dear friends, like always, I would begin by sharing some words of wisdom which Amma told during her speech at an event in United Nations headquarters in Geneva, where she was addressing a large gathering at the Global Peace Initiative of Women and Religious Leaders. So let me share some of the things that Amma said in the context of women empowerment. Amma said, and I quote, "Feminine energy or a woman's energy is fluid like a river. This makes it easy for a woman to be a mother, a wife, and a good friend who provides her husband with confidence. She has the special gift to be the guide and the advisor of the entire family. Women who have jobs are more than capable of succeeding in this as well. The power of a woman's innate motherhood helps her to find a deep sense of peace and harmony within herself. This enables her to reflect and react at the same time, whereas a man tends to reflect less and react more. A woman can listen to the sorrows of other people and respond with compassion, but still, when faced with a challenge, she can rise to a situation and react as strongly as any man. In today's world, everything is being contaminated and made unnatural. In this environment, woman should take extra care that her qualities of motherhood, her essential nature as a woman, do not become contaminated and distorted." So with those words of Amma, once again, my best wishes to the AYUDH team for organizing these talks, and also my thanks as well as best wishes to today's very special guest speaker. I will let Meenakshi do the honors. Thank you and namaste. Over to you, Meenakshi.
Thank you so much, Swamiji. That was indeed a beautiful message, and starting our day with Amma's message is always a positive sign for a beautiful day ahead. Thank you so much. And before introducing you all to our guest speaker, I would like to share a few lines from Sri Lalita Sahasranamam, where the Divine Mother is described as Ichha Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Swarupini. She whose own form is the power of will, knowledge, and action. The truth is that these three powers are inherent in every woman, but many women are yet to awaken that. Women are not helpless or weak, and there is nothing a woman cannot do if she sets her mind to it. And on that note, I would like to introduce our guest for today, Ms. Karen Sneha Moawad, a woman who inspires and teaches others to reach the stars. Ma'am, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good
We're
morning.
honored. Good morning. We're honored to have you here.
Thank you.
If I have to tell my audience about ma'am and her experiences, ma'am has an experience of 43 years of consulting in orthodontic practices and has been learning valuable lessons from Mata Amritanandamayi Devi since 26 years, which has helped her to teach innovative organizational ideas and best practices to increase engagement and loyalty of employees while positively impacting the growth of the business. Ma'am is the founder and CEO of Hummingbird Associates, an orthodontic management consulting firm headquartered in Washington. During the past 43 years, she has finely tuned her skills into integrating efficient computerized management system with a humanistic motivational approach to auxiliary utilization and personal growth. Besides consulting in orthodontic practices, she has also lectured extensively and has published numerous books. Ma'am has also given lectures at regional, national, and international meetings, often to an audience of 2,500 plus people. Ma'am, we are truly honored to have you here. I am so blessed to be sharing this platform with you. Thank you so much and welcome again from the whole IUD team.
Thank you.
Ma'am, let's start with the Q&A sessions. We have some questions
Right.
prepared and we would want to, get your insights on that. So the first question that we have for you today is, how has your role in Amma's organization empowered you as a woman?
Meenakshi, when I first met Amma more than 25 years ago, I knew somehow I wanted to help her efforts to empower those less fortunate. However, I really had little awareness about the importance of putting the needs of society ahead of personal desires, how to love people unconditionally, how to be compassionate without judging, or even how to easily adapt to situations that are unfamiliar or uncomfortable. Despite my flaws, Amma still made every effort to empower me to truly perform selfless service in multiple domains, such as medicine, international collaborations, event management, even editing scientific journal articles, although I'm not a scientist or a researcher. We are currently identifying and interviewing dedicated physicians who are willing to contribute to the noble cause of Amma's new 2,200-bed, state-of-the-art charitable nonprofit hospital and medical school in Faridabad, south of Delhi. I have no background in medical administration. Dr. Prem Nair, the medical director, has patiently educated me in every medical specialty and in the requirements of the National Medical Council in order to properly interview the doctors in depth. It is Amma's vision and mission to offer healthcare of the highest quality with the latest technology so as to provide excellent outcomes for reducing the cost of medical care. Amma's love and compassion for the suffering poor will be manifested in every aspect of that hospital. During our interviews to select physicians, we not only have identified highly skilled doctors, but because of the importance Amma places on kindness and empathy, we have narrowed the choices to those who also understand the need to treat their patients, their colleagues, and their students with genuine love and compassion. For years prior to helping at the hospital, my role had been working with the international team on collaborations for Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Amrita University. For those who are not familiar with Amrita University, it is a multidisciplinary, research-intensive private university that is educating a vibrant student population of over 20,000 with more than 1,700 faculty. Amma is the chancellor, and she ensures that all the faculty focus on a vision of intellectual social responsibility as the foundation for teaching and research. At no other university in the world is the chancellor so amazingly effective at paving the way for international collaborations. The university is only 20 years old, and yet we have met with Nobel Prize winners, university presidents, provosts, and professors at most of the top universities worldwide, many of them centuries old. At first, I wondered if they would even be willing to meet with us. But once they hear that our education is values-based and how our research is truly making a difference for women at lower economic levels, they eagerly agree to collaborative research, adjunct faculty positions, and dual degrees. There are now more than 180 collaborations with the top 500 world-ranked universities. This year, Amrita was the only Indian university to emerge in the top 100 universities in the world in the Times Higher Education Impact Rankings. Amrita secured the 81st position in the prestigious rankings. January 12th, 2010, a catastrophic earthquake hit Haiti. The very next day, Dayamritananda Swami and I were on our way to Haiti to see how embracing the world could help. All commercial flights were stopped, and although we didn't know it at the time, there was no available food nor water, and over 200,000 people had died, many in the nation's capital. It was only through Amma's grace that we got the last 2 seats on a private plane heading to Haiti the day after the earthquake. The city of Port-au-Prince was rubble when we landed. Most of the buildings were gone. We had no idea where we would stay. Fortunately, a group of physicians from Florida were setting up a tent with beds for themselves and invited us to stay there. Dayamrita sat with the Haitian men while they cried. I sat with the women. There was so much emotional pain from loss of lives of relatives and friends, as well as the physical pain of broken bones. We didn't speak their language, but the trip showed both of us that everyone speaks Amma's language of the heart. We distributed beans and rice, which was only found with Amma's help. And because the rains had started, we arranged for a US company to donate tarps for the thousands of families staying in the tent city newly created in Port-au-Prince. Subsequently, we returned to Haiti at Amma's instruction to find young children who had lost one or both parents in the earthquake. We selected 30 youngsters, and Amma paid, and in some instances is still paying, for their education through high school. Today, most of them want to become doctors. I remember when Amma was asked to deliver a speech at the United Nations Alliance of Civilization in Shanghai, China in November 2012. She was the only spiritual religious leader invited to the conference. I was asked to accompany Swami Ramakrishna to prepare for her visit. Knowing little about China or the language, I was fearful I would not be of any value. But I tried to stay centered in the present and deal with each challenge as it presented itself. And fortunately, the conference was a success. Not because we had done anything special, but because the other speakers and the attendees fell in love with Amma. The Interfaith Declaration to End Modern Slavery, hosted by Pope Francis at the Vatican, was an opportunity for me to step out of my comfort zone as I was asked to make multiple trips to Rome to help prepare for the conference, arrange accommodation and food for the 100 or so people who would accompany Amma, and meet with Bishop Marcelo Sanchez Serrano, the Argentinian Chancellor of the Pontifical Academy of Sciences at the Vatican. Realizing I'm not the doer, but simply an instrument in Amma's hands, I was able to cope with language and religious differences, negotiate accommodations in a foreign city, navigate the complexity of the Vatican, and communicate with the other 10 religious leaders who were invited from all over the world. Early 2015, Dayamritananda Swamiji and I went to the United Nations in New York to see how the UN might collaborate with Amrita University on the 17 Sustainability Development Goals. During that conversation with Ramu Damodaran, the first chief of the United Nations Academic Impact Initiative, we agreed to co-host the very first one-day UNAI conference at the United Nations headquarters in New York in July 2015. The conference was titled Technology for Sustainable Development, and 4 of our top international collaborators were selected. Amma asked me to lead the organization of this event with a small team, although I'd never planned an event of this enormity or importance. Time after time, Amma takes very ordinary people and gets extraordinary results. Over 700 people joined in person and many others followed online as Amma gave the keynote and the Amrita professors discussed their sustainable development research. The United Nations was so impressed with Amrita, and I felt empowered by Amma in a whole new arena. Amma's work in women's economic empowerment and gender equality has also greatly influenced the priorities in my professional life. Consulting with orthodontists throughout North America, my attention is constantly on providing a fair living wage to the thousands and thousands of employees that are primarily female. One cannot offer enough economic help and compassion as many of these women try to juggle single parenting, homeschooling, sick children, and not enough money to make ends meet. I also make every effort to help the female orthodontists become as successful as their male counterparts, despite the old boys network. Learning from Amma, I've helped these females create networks with other female orthodontists so they can learn from each other and are not isolated. In answer to your question, Meenakshi, there is amazing empowerment that comes from offering a much needed helping hand.
And that was a beautiful answer. And all the incidences that you shared with us, all your stories, they were truly empowering. And I'm so glad that you have touched so many lives. I wish I could be like you someday. Moving on, the second question that we have for today is that we all know that Amma is like a great humanitarian leader and she has done a number of humanitarian initiatives, right? So please tell us how your experience has been working in some of these projects and how do you think Amma is trying to uplift poor women, restore their human rights and instill confidence in them?
Oh my heavens, there are so many examples. Amma established Amrita Shri, a network of self-help groups that provide vocational education, startup capital, marketing assistance, and access to microcredit loans and micro savings accounts from government-regulated banks to equip women with the skills and means to set up small-scale cottage industry businesses. Currently, about 6,000 self-help groups are actively functioning all over India, empowering over 250,000 women. These women learn the value of education and are committed to educating their children, thus impacting future generations. In rural India, schools that provide education beyond 7th standard are often 50 kilometers away via forest roads. Few children can attend, so Amma sets up schools locally throughout India. Currently, there are more than 90, actually, Amrita Vidyalayam schools from K through 12th standard. In the rural district of Attapadi, Kerala, Amma's organization has trained young women as health workers. Many of the girls are orphans or were unable to complete their education. Each of them was given 6 months training and a stipend, after which they were hired to work at tribal hospitals, doing outreach in the nearby communities. The young health workers provide first aid for the elderly, as well as children and pregnant women. They are also trained to identify those in need of treatment and take them to the hospital for further care. Amma fights every day for the rights of individuals who suffer, both men and women. Her inspiring network of activities, the Mutt in India, ETW worldwide, is aimed at wiping the tears from every single person suffering from poverty. Whether it is one of the orphans new to her orphanage, or parents who lost their children during the tsunami, or the family of a farmer who committed suicide because of the inability to afford new seeds for the next crop, Amma is always ready to offer compassion, dignity, and hope. It is important to note that approximately 1/3 of India's 600,000 rural villages do not have access to electricity. Amma's decision to adopt 101 of the poorest villages throughout India has resulted in the 5,000 to 10,000 people in each village being given the resources to become sustainable. Whether it is literacy, skill training, life enrichment courses introducing the villagers to their governmental rights, hygiene courses, contemporary farming techniques, access to clean water and electricity, restoring houses and roads, or food storage techniques, Amma and her university students and faculty are taking the villagers out of poverty and offering them a whole new world of opportunities. Just as an example, in one village, the alcohol shop was next door to the school. The school children had to walk by the scores of men lined up to buy alcohol. Amachi Labs helped the mothers learn their legal rights and get that alcohol shop moved. Part of our international collaboration effort at Amrita is Live in Labs, the experiential learning initiative that invites students from around the world to come to India and live and work with our faculty and students in the very poorest villages in order to fully understand the challenges the villagers face and to co-design, develop, and deploy multidisciplinary solutions with the villagers. The goal of this initiative is to build self-reliant communities. Amma wanted the Amrita students and faculty to solve a diverse range of challenges. At the same time, Amma wanted students, ours and our foreign visitors, to learn about the Indian culture, to develop values such as compassion and empathy, and to actually live in the lab where they would be studying and working, rather than studying and working in a traditional university lab. In August 2014, more than 70 tribals and villagers from remote areas, all living below the poverty line, came to Amritapuri ashram for Amma's darshan. Many of the villagers had never left their panchayat or village before, not even to go to nearby cities. Having never interacted with the outside world, some tribals even had to be shown how to dress in a manner suitable for modern society. They also had to be taught how to use showers and toilets, as they had no previous experience with such amenities. In fact, because their village's nearest source of clean water is 3 kilometers away, they were not even used to bathing regularly. Feeling compassion at the sight of their deep economic plight, Amma offered 20 of them training and subsequent employment at Amrita Hospital in Kochi. In 2015, I was selected by UN Women to become an Empower Woman Global Champion to publicize women's economic empowerment online for a year. I thought the task would be easy, as I planned to publicize Amma's efforts. However, even though I was nonstop blogging, posting on social media, and interviewing recipients of all the empowerment programs, Amma was doing more than I could possibly publicize. Here she was developing so many programs, I didn't have the bandwidth to describe them all. It was then that I understood the enormity of her reach. Some people don't realize that Amma's focus is not just on the poor of India. As an example, in April 2016, she visited Kenya to launch multiple programs for the poor. She set up the Amrita Solar Village to provide lighting, heating, and a water supply for sanitation, nutrition, and irrigation to improve the quality of life for residents in 5 villages. And she started the Amrita After School Study Program to support children who have no access to electricity at home. The dedicated classrooms and facilities allow the children to study and do their homework, helping them to overcome some of the challenges of living in poverty. One cannot deny that this one diminutive woman in a white sari has done more than countries, more than most countries, in lifting people out of poverty and restoring their human rights.
Ma'am, all these stories and all the incidences that you have are making me, ask you more questions than you already have. And that was a beautiful, response to our question. And definitely, Amma aims to do so much more than just, uplifting poor people. Moving on to the next question is, this is also a question which I would have personally asked you, that did you face any challenges in your journey of life because you were a woman, and how did Amma's teaching help you face those challenges?
So many of the concepts that I try to live by day come from what I've learned from Amma. Before I met Amma, I was leading what one could say was a typical selfish Western life, planning for the future, raising children, working, enjoying nice things. I certainly have not made a full transition to a selfless life, living fully in the present with all efforts going to uplift the poor, but the pendulum is swinging in that direction. And now I use Amma's teachings in everything I do. For example, acceptance of others. Amma teaches, and I quote, "Show respect by accepting everyone for who they are and honoring the divinity within them. In light of this acceptance, people want to be better. They will try harder and they will do the good and right thing. Your respect empowers them." End of quote. My professional life requires my clients to make many major changes. It's a very challenging time for them. The consulting process is so much easier when I follow Amma's lead and accept everyone for who they are and honor the divinity within them. Humility is also an important lesson I am learning under Amma's tutelage. Amma insists on collaborative group decisions within her university in an effort to force each of us to listen to each other's points of view and to develop humility that our solution may not be as ideal as someone else's. Another learning, everything that happens is a blessing in disguise. And if we remember this and accept what happens rather than complaining or blaming others, we will learn the lessons we need to learn. I've also learned that wherever we are in life, it is because the divine has created the situations for us based on what we need to learn. We didn't reach the goal in our past birth, so we have another lifetime to learn life's valuable lessons. One winter, years ago, Swamini Krishnamrita and I traveled to Delhi for some purchases. Little did I know the temperatures would fall so low. We were staying in the ashram at Vasant Kunj. Extra blankets were nowhere to be found, and I was shivering so much in bed, sleep was not possible. Desperately, I went outside and begged a sleeping dog to come inside my room. As he snuggled in the bed, his warmth allowed the luxury of sleep. And I realized that night that God will always provide us what we need in spiritual life if we will adjust to the circumstances we are in. Amma's greatness is not only achieving a state of God realization, but going way beyond that to encompass a life of such compassion that she sees everyone as a mirror of herself everywhere. Amma says, unless your heart can melt with compassion for others, you'll never realize the truth of what the word love really means. It'll just be a word in the dictionary. I have also learned the value of innocent faith, the faith that Amma is the divine mother, and she is a perfect guide. Every day, Amma comes out with her followers to mingle on our level, setting a personal example for us. No matter what your spiritual or religious beliefs, faith plays a major role. I think I've also learned self-confidence from Amma. She talks about being the lion rather than the lamb. Representing the university internationally, primarily with male deans and professors, was intimidating. And I thought I should leave those discussions to Dr. Manisha or Dr. Krishnashree, who are much more knowledgeable about the university programs and research. But Amma insisted and gave me the confidence to be part of that team. Amma says selfless service is one of the easier ways we can earn the grace of the guru. It comes down to our effort and attitude. I would like to share a story. It was in Singapore on the American Thanksgiving in 1996, the year after I met Amma. A friend told me that she'd been observing my workaholic behavior while on tour with Amma. She reminded me that spiritual practices, meditation, sitting with Amma while she gave darshan, singing bhajans, was just as important, if not more so, than working, even if it was Amma's hospital project I was working on, and that I might want to consider rearranging my priorities. I was devastated that someone thought all my hard work was inappropriate. It took about 3 hours for her words to sink in, and by noon I had dissolved in tears, realizing that I had simply transferred my Western workaholic behavior to Amma's project, having missed the whole reason I was in the presence of a famous Satguru. In that moment, it seemed I was as far away from the possibility of a spiritual life as any human could be. When you're in the presence of God and still can't stop working, there obviously is no hope. I was upstairs on the floor above the darshan line, working with Dr. Prem on a staffing plan for the outpatient clinic at the hospital in Kochi, slated to open in 1998. Dr. Prem soon realized my tears blinded my chance of any progress. So he suggested turning the issue over to Mother. No judgment, no blame, just a simple, why don't you ask Amma? I responded to his suggestion by sniffling my way through typing a short note on my computer. Dear Amma, I'm so confused between my desire to serve you and my desire to lead a life very different from my present one of working 24 hours a day and little time for spiritual practices. Can you help me balance work and spiritual practice? Or is AIM's work a spiritual practice? Please help me understand all this and take the steps toward a course of action that will best serve you. With deep love, Sneha. I knew I had no choice but to walk downstairs to the darshan line and give my question to Amma. I suddenly panicked, thinking she will tell me to return to my worldly possessions and friends and make room for those who have worked their entire life to become God-realized, to do their work with her, that I was unworthy. But no. She respectfully and patiently listened while Prem translated the note in Malayalam, and then she explained that many people spend hours every day sitting at her feet. Better that one should be doing truly selfless service. With one of those special smiles that she is known for, she told Prem to explain that she was encouraging me to continue working, but to come be with her whenever I felt the need. If we look at Amma's life, this is what we see. Someone who has offered her every thought, word, and deed for the benefit of others. Giving is her essence. When the homeless come crying for shelter and Amma gives them a house, we call her a humanitarian. And when the sad come crying for her emotional solace and she gives them love, we call her a mother. And when those thirsty for spiritual knowledge come earnestly seeking and she gives them wisdom, we call her a spiritual teacher or guru. Many people wonder how a little girl from a simple South Indian village came to be known throughout the world as Amma, the mother of all. Motherhood in its ultimate sense has nothing to do with bearing a child, but with love, compassion, and selflessness. It lies in totally giving oneself to others. That is Amma's essence. She is such an inspiring role model.
That was a beautiful response. And I just took one, like I took all of the things that you shared. I took one line in which Swamiji told you that, why don't you ask Amma? Whenever we have a, doubt, whenever we're in a dilemma, asking Amma, I think somehow clears it out on its own. And thank you so much for sharing that story. It was really inspiring, ma'am. It was really inspiring. All right. So we have the next question is, okay, so what qualities in Amma do you think can be helpful for a woman in the current times to realize their full potential? And what are some of the qualities which have helped you to realize your full potential?
Well, I'm not sure that I realized my potential fully, Meenakshi, but Amma has so many qualities that inspire me, and they are helpful for everyone, both women and men. Whether reading books, listening to her satsangs, direct instructions, or watching her, I learn from Amma every day, and I try hard to emulate her. Let me give you some examples. Once Amma began her work in earnest, she wasted no time in calling her children to her. It is as if she suddenly became magnetized. People were inexplicably drawn to her and Amma to them. Simply put, Amma has interpersonal skills that motivate people to help her. Amma also radiates so much love and is the role model of self-confidence. People are attracted to that energy and feel good about themselves in her presence. She takes the time to talk and play with children. She notices if someone has not eaten. She weeps with a grieving family. Amma also has tremendous energy. She doesn't waste time or energy with angry words. Amma guides us on the path to meditation, chanting our mantra, and yoga, so we stay connected to our source of energy. Amma is God's love made visible. She boldly crashes into people's consciousness with deeds, attitudes, and actions that have never been done, seen, or even heard of before. So many projects, all designed to lift people up spiritually, educationally, and or economically. She is committed to teaching spirituality, to empowering women, to lifting up the poor. As an example, I've watched in amazement as Amma has also opened the door to women as monastic leaders. At the Brahmastanam temples founded by Amma in India, women have been appointed as temple priests and are invested with the responsibility to give spiritual discourses and even perform religious rituals in the inner sanctum of these temples. Amma has thus elevated the stature of women, transcending conventional religious thinking and reviving India's spiritual heritage. Amma offers love without asking for anything in return. True confessions here. In the past, I have withheld love and affection until someone earned it. In contrast, Amma loves everyone, regardless of their behavior. Amma only sees the best in each of us, even when there is evidence to the contrary. She knows people tend to rise to the occasion when they have someone who truly believes in them. Amma also accepts and forgives. She is respectful by meeting people where they are and accepting them for who they are. Her respect empowers them. Amma is the ultimate in forgiveness. She keeps on believing in us. She keeps on giving us chances. Actually, I think forgiveness is like gravity, invisible in its power, yet profound in its effects. Amma has great confidence in her children and gives authority based on trust. She has confidence in each person, which makes you want to live up to her expectations. Giving her children authority to act, she delegates power. There's much work to be done that she could not humanly or even divinely do without her children. Amma acknowledged that when she was given the James Parks Morton Interfaith Award in New York, May 2nd, 2006, for her outstanding role as a spiritual leader and humanitarian. She responded, "I don't deserve this award. It should go to my children. They're the ones who did all the work. I am just an instrument." Amma embraces people with just a glance. By watching Amma, I am learning to be fully centered in the present and to hold or embrace a person in that moment. Amma offers God's grace. I've learned from Amma that grace doesn't flow based on how often you pray. It is not about whether you have nice clothes or whether you study scriptures. It is simply your efforts to offer selfless service without attachment to the outcome and how you treat others that wins God's grace. The way to show you love Amma is to treat every soul you meet as if she or he is Amma. Amma says that surrender is the only way we can really evolve. Surrendering is not a one-time event. There is a moment of surrender, and there is the practice of surrender, which is moment by moment and lifelong. Surrendering means understanding that God is the real doer. We're only her instruments. Selfless service offers many opportunities to convert this truth from an intellectual concept to a personal conviction. In service, we try to perform our actions without the feeling, I am doing. Amma says we should see ourselves as a pen in the hands of a divine writer or a brush in the hands of a divine painter. Surrender requires we focus on the work we've been asked to do. Surrendered servants think about their own work, not what others are doing. They don't compare, criticize, or compete with other servants. They're too busy doing the work God has given them. Competition between God's servants is illogical. We're all working for God. We don't have time to be critical. Any time spent criticizing others is time that could be spent serving. In other words, real servants don't complain of unfairness and don't resent others. They just trust God and keep serving. Servants faithfully finish their tasks, fulfill their responsibilities, keep their promises, and complete their commitments. They don't leave a job half done, and they don't quit when they get discouraged. Some people try to use God for their own purposes, but life is about letting God use us for her purposes, not the other way around. Amma is also teaching the importance of detachment from outcomes. I'm still working on that. It's difficult to be detached when you pour your efforts into a task. She teaches that we must do our best and stay in the present, and thus not worry about the future or the outcome. In other words, as Swamiji said recently in a satsang, the past and future are two terrorists. They are killers of all our talents, our strengths, inner potential, and most importantly, our happiness and peace. Amma also knows that nobody wins until we all do. She cannot rest as long as even one of her children is missing, despite the thousands of them that aren't. She also knows there must be an end to poverty, illiteracy, poor health, crimes against women, and environmental pollution for us all to win. I just want to finish by saying that at almost 80 years of age, my time is drawing to a close. But to the AYUDH youth, you have your lifetime ahead of you. Make use of every moment of this incredible opportunity with Amma. Regardless of our path or dharma, knowing and loving Amma and learning from her is life's greatest privilege. Thank you, AYUDH and Amrita for inviting me to participate. And thank you, Meenakshi, for helping me share my story.
And thank you so much. And people like you remind us that, every year that you live by, you have to do something good and you have to, live a life which is remarkable. And thank you so much for the stories. I think, like, if I sit with you, I can ask you more stories about Amma and your experiences. Thank you so much. I am really touched, and I'm sure that AYUDH, the whole AYUDH India and global, we would be doing wonders to take Amma's learnings and motivation to great heights. Thank you so much.
You're very
Um,
welcome.
we actually have a question from YouTube, and I would want you to, help Vandana. Vandana from Bhopal has asked that, how do you see the concept of women empowerment different in India as compared to the West? And which one do you think is, required in these days?
Well, so that's a big question. I actually feel that women's empowerment, no matter where it's being done or how it's being done, should be done as much as possible. The sad stories that happen about attacks on women and such happen in every part of the world. It isn't just India, it isn't just Africa, it happens everywhere. And therefore, I think the concept of educating men and women, as well as personal safety for women, is essential. I think that Amma has done a lot to bring women's empowerment to the forefront. So therefore, maybe India is ahead of the rest of the world, but we can all learn those lessons. It needs to be done everywhere.
Right, ma'am. Also, we have another question, which is by Kirti Sharma from Ahmedabad. Somebody received this. So she's asking that in our Indian society, there are some customs and beliefs which are, slowing down the progress of a woman. And in most of these, the middle class families in India, the whole focus is for us, for women to get married, and not so much on educating us or making us reach levels. So, are there any custom like this in West too, or is it just restricted to India?
I don't know if it's just India. It's maybe a little different in the West because when a couple gets married, they go off and start their life, and it isn't about the boy taking care of his parents and bringing his wife to that family and so on and so forth. The customs, I think, actually are very different. There is not the dowry system, which hopefully India is getting rid of also, but that doesn't make what India's tradition stands for any less valuable. I mean, I think women now in India are getting educated, and sometimes for the wrong reasons. Sometimes it's to find the right husband, but they are getting educated and hopefully marrying somebody who is happy with them continuing to work. We are trying very hard at the university to give women who not only have gotten married, but have also had children to be able to work, even if it's part-time, to teach and do research at the university in India.
Right. So I think our culture might be a little different, but then the essence of it is beautiful, like every other culture that is. Moving on, we have another question from Geeta Bakshi from Lucknow. And she's asking that what is the most important thing that you think today's young girls should be focused on to become more empowered?
I would probably say it's building self-confidence and self-worth, as well as education. Education doesn't necessarily have to be book learning, although that's helpful, but skill training, whatever it is that makes you happy, to learn something that will allow you to be able to support yourself. We never know what the future holds. And I think self-confidence and education is probably best.
Right. We have a lot of questions coming in, like some people, even our Ayu devotees, here asking. So we have one question from Sameer, who's from Delhi. He's asking that, do you think that Western movies are responsible to, for to some extent in objectifying women like commodities, like objectifying women like commodities?
Definitely.
Okay.
Is that a good enough answer? Unfortunately, not all movies, you can't say that. And some movies are very inspiring, but certainly Hollywood has not helped, or Bollywood, if you will, in getting rid of the concept of objectifying women.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I don't know. It's just so much around us. Either they want to just hype us, or they just want to put us in the screen. But the way they put us is not always in the right manner. They can do better, I would say. And I think,
I'm sorry.
sorry, please, ma'am, continue.
No, there are just advertisements also that contribute to that concept. I think the world should maybe self-examine and say, do we really need to do this? It's so unnecessary.
Yeah, we can actually just keep women and men in the same level and treat everybody equally, and just not hype us in a different manner. And yes, I'm sure Samira, it was Samira from Delhi, I'm sorry for the name. I'm sure she would have got her answer. We have another question by Vidya, who's also from Delhi. And the question is that, as young women, what are some of the things we should avoid in life so that we can be better empowered?
Good question. Well, I certainly would make every effort. This isn't about avoiding, but I would make every effort to learn the lessons that Amma teaches as early as possible. I'm just sorry I didn't learn those when I was in my 30s. And I think an education, once again, whether it's book learning or skill training, is essential for empowerment. I don't think there's, one could say travel and such, but if you were to travel, if everyone in the world were to travel to India, excuse me, to participate in live-in labs and live in the poorest villages of India and learn compassion and learn how to work hand in hand, co-developing solutions to the problems that the people with real poverty face, I think self-empowerment would be your middle name.
Right, ma'am. Right. Totally. I mean, if we could, if we would, we could have, changed our situation right now. But then I think we are going towards development. We have this one last question by Sukirti from Andhra Pradesh. She's asking that if you were given a chance to go back in time, what things in your life would you change which will make you more empowered if you could go back in time?
If I could have really totally gone back in time, I would have been born in India and lived in Amma's ashram from day one.
That's
Obviously, you can't redo your life. You can learn from it and you can help others make the right choices. But that would be my greatest joy, would have been a lifetime in Amritapuri.
that's great. I mean, if we had a time machine, we would have made that possible for you and for you and for everyone. And
For all
I
of
think,
us. Yeah.
yeah, for all of us. And I think that's the set of question we have for right now. It was so nice to talk to you, ma'am, personally on behalf of Ayudh. I thank you so much. Every story, every incident that you shared with us was it was beautiful. I always, as a student, used to learn from my teachers whenever they shared one story or, something like an example with the concept that they are teaching. And you totally did that today. And thank you so much for sharing all the incidences with Amma and your life. And I'm sure people who are watching us would be so empowered, and they would serve Amma and serve for Amma and also the nation with the zeal and enthusiasm that you've already done. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank Swamiji Mokshamrita Chaitanya ji for starting this whole session on a beautiful note. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us today. Please continue to follow our channel, subscribe, like, to be updated about the next session. We will be having the last session for our whole series of 9 talks next Sunday. Please join in. Thank you so much, ma'am. It was an honor being here, sharing the stage with you. And I hope to talk to you and meet you soon in India sometime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The honor was mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Till then, signing off, Team Ayudh. Have a good day, everybody.